Here.
Director Coverdale,
Here.
Director Michelson. You're muted. Director Michelson, you're muted.
You're up. Oh God, that's the old mute faux pas. Sorry.
Vice President Feldman.
Here.
And President Reynolds is not with us this evening.
Okay, so next thing will be the Pledge of Allegiance. Who usually does the honors? Ken? Yeah, Ken has.
I'm going to try to remember the words tonight.
Okay. John has the flag.
I'm drinking flavored water on purpose.
You guys can do it in tandem.
I pledge allegiance
Allegiance
To the
to
flag
the flag of the
of the United States of America
America and to the republic,
and
for
to the
which it
republic
stands,
for which it
one
stands,
nation,
one nation, under God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
liberty
liberty and
and
justice.
justice for all.
for all.
Amen.
Amen. Okay. Is there any public comment? I don't see any members of the public here, unless I'm missing something. Okay, given that there is no public comment, we'll go to the consent calendar. Are there any items anybody wishes to pull from the calendar or comments regarding the consent calendar?
If I may, Mr. Acting Chair, I do have a couple of questions, please.
Okay,
I'll make it simple with staff. One would be under A and one would be under H. And the one I was just curious about was the U.S. Bank Global Corp Trust Services. I'm not familiar with that, and it was $507,794.58. May I get a little update on that one there on the finance?
Yes, those are loan payments for iBank loans.
Okay, thank you on that one. And then Pacific Gas and Electric on there, I would assume we're probably doing more pumping, so that hasn't been an increase because of the purchasing of the water and all that. So thank you for that one. And then on H, quickly here, I'm curious regarding that 6-inch fire hydrant accident down on Spyglass. Do we get any contact of who did it, and do we get any revenue for the labor cost that did the replacement of that fire hydrant? Just curious.
Yeah, I believe the owner of the house that has the hydrant in front of it actually hit it backing out.
Oh, I see.
So he couldn't get away
Uh-huh.
because he lives there. Yeah, he was very apologetic, is my understanding, and it's insurance claim, and we'll get reimbursed for all our costs.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
I wanted to mention that the financial report was reviewed and approved by Director Michelson.
Yes, and I found them to be in order. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, I forgot to mention it, sorry. Without any other comments?
I move we approve the consent calendar.
I will second it.
Okay, Denise, you take the roll on that.
Director Muller,
Aye.
Director Coverdale,
Yes.
Director Michelson,
Yes.
Vice President Feldman.
Yes. Okay. Item 5, meetings attended and any director comments? Any comments from the folks? Ken?
Yeah, I have a comment. A local citizen in Half Moon Bay, I think all of us know him, Chad Hooker, brought it to my attention that he is really concerned about all these backflow prevention devices that we're putting, in front of the commercial buildings, which we have to do. But they're pretty ugly. I think they're at risk in many regards, like the fire hydrant, because they're three-dimensional and they're in areas where they could be damaged. They are unsightly. It is possible to put them in vaults. It has to be a pretty special design. We'd have to have an engineer draw up a spec that would be the Coastside County Water District specification for vaulting. And I don't know that we could go back and get people to do ones that are already in, but maybe going forward, there could be an option for people who are willing to pay. I'm sure it would cost more money to do it that way. But apparently there is not a spec that we have in the water district to give people the option. And, we can't really discuss it now, it's not on the agenda, but it came to my attention. I think it's really worth talking about, either as a future agenda item or maybe refer it to staff and have one of the engineers come back and, create something for us that we could adopt as CCWD policy. I don't know how many others of you he spoke to about. I think Glenn got a call and had a conversation with them as well. But they're pretty funky.
I thought at one point there was a note about that somewhere, a letter of some sort that he had issued. In some form, I remember his name and something regarding backflow stuff. So I'm not sure if we haven't seen this in some hard copy someplace. But I think your point is well taken, that we should refer it to staff at this point and maybe have them look into this, think about this, and maybe come back at some point with information about what the possibilities might be. Would the owners be responsible for fixing that? We can't really talk to this. Do they have to put the payment for the vault in, or is that something that we might liable for?
Yeah, I having Ken, as long as you've been on the board too, I know Chad is our resident complainer. And so I did notice his complaint. So I did actually have a discussion with staff, and it's not as easy as it sounds putting it in a vault. There are issues with installing it in a vault. So it's, I know in a perfect world, if we could hide it in a cupboard, that would be great. I totally get it. I just don't think it's quite that easy. So like you said, it's not agendized, but yeah, if staff could share with the rest of the board what staff shared with me, that would probably be really, really helpful.
Perhaps a staff report going forward at one of our meetings would be helpful. Good idea. Okay, other comments? All right.
Well, I guess while I have the floor, we are on meetings. So I did share an email with Mary today that came from Bosca, from our acting chair, our Nick Holman on vacation. And Bob, I'm sorry, Jesus. John, you probably know what a curtailment is. And the water board issued a curtailment. And this does not bode well. It gives this state board the authority to allocate water on the Tuolumne. It actually takes that authority away from MID and TID. This is a really, really slippery slope. It was just issued the other day. We don't know how far the state will go, but they can go as far as they like. So Mary, probably wouldn't be, you probably could forward that to all the other board directors. So it's a short letter from Bosca acting chair, and then a Modesto B explanation on kind of how it works. But just want to get everyone aware of that.
So Mary, maybe you can send copies to each of us. John?
Yes, a couple of quick things just to follow up with that. I have a longtime friend that's was on the Bay Delta board for many years, is now consultant for TID in San Francisco PUC regarding the Tuolumne, because Turlock Irrigation District's very concerned about the Tuolumne issue too, and senior water rights there. So that was just a follow up on Chris's comments. And then my other one is August 5th, I had a very brief meeting with staff and the consultant regarding future water for the Coastside County Water District. And I just wanted to clarify that with the rest of the board and public.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments, items already? We'll go to the next item, general business. And I'll turn that over to Mary for discussion of the overview of the 2019-20 storage tank studies and hydraulic model. Carter Hill design update.
Well, thank you. I would like to welcome John Sutter from EKI, who has joined us from the East Coast tonight. So he's technically on vacation, but he's joining us. So thank you, John. We've recently received some inquiries from some of our board members about the district's overall tank plan, and particularly since we initiated a tank engineering design project at Carter Hill, with the HDR earlier this year. So last summer, EKI and John presented a PowerPoint to the board describing all the studies that we've conducted on our tanks over the last couple of years, and also his work on our hydraulic model. So we invited John again to give this presentation again so that everybody is updated on what we are doing. And then after he's done, James and I will update you on what's going on right now with HDR. So with that, I will turn it over to John. So.
Thank you, Mary, and thanks everyone for having me here. It looks like I'm not able to share my screen.
Hang on, I can help you with that.
Okay.
You should be all set now.
Okay. Okay. Yes, as Mary mentioned, this is essentially the presentation I gave last year with minor updates, but I thought it would, we thought it would be good to remind the board of the work that was done to date and just give you some perspective on, the direction that we're headed and what was kind of the work that went into the initiating the design at Carter Hill. So I'll give you a background, just an overview of the district storage and kind of how the storage can move within the system. I'll provide a summary of the hydraulic evaluation that we did, looking at the system overall, and then looking at some of the individual tanks and how, especially those that were identified as needing significant repairs or retrofits, and how those really are not useful for the system. We'll give you a kind of summary of the Carter Hill or Half Moon Bay tank siting study that came out of some of the seismic evaluations and the condition assessments, where we had TJC and associates look at potential sizes that could be located at the Carter Hill site, and was, as Mary will update you, HDR has taken and kind of expanded on that work. And then, I'll summarize the recommended next steps that we had identified about a year ago. So just background, I know everyone is probably familiar with the system. This is just an overview showing each of the 10 storage tanks in the system. And you'll see the colors, the backgrounds here show the different pressure zones in the system. So there are 9 different pressure zones in the system. So in total, there are 10 potable water storage tanks with a total capacity of 8 million gallons, and 1 raw water storage tank, Cahill, which is located up here. So this really looks at gives an overview of where things are located and distributed spatially in the distribution system. This table here just summarizes all the characteristics of each tank. So as you can see, all the tanks built to date are welded steel. They're for the most part, a lot of them are older tanks. There are a number of tanks that were built in the 1950s and 60s. And many of them are in need of recoding. And as the top 6 were identified to be evaluated in terms of their seismic, if they were constructed according to the current seismic requirements. So TJC and Associates and Cornerstone Structural Engineering Group looked at, they split these tanks up, and they looked at the top 6 tanks, and these studies revealed the need for significant rehabilitation and seismic retrofits at each of these sites. So that was really the focus. These 6 tanks were the focus of our effort to see, how these tanks really benefit the system overall. So this slide shows a hydraulic profile schematic, and these figures are really useful in showing how water can move throughout the system. So you'll see the pressure zones, so particularly zone 1, right? That serves as kind of the backbone of the system. Oops, sorry, let me go back. It is served by, or it has, is the pressure zone that is fed by the Half Moon Bay tanks or the Carter Hill tanks, Denniston tanks, and the Miramar tank. So really the levels in those tanks set the hydraulic grade line, HGL, for all of zone 1. And the tank levels, for other zones do that as well, in zones 2, EG2 and EG3. It's really the tanks that are setting the hydraulic grade. In the other zones, they're not fed directly by tanks. They're served, through a PRV, a pressure reducing valve station that reduces pressures, from the levels that are set by the tanks to serve lower zones. So that's true of El Granada, zone 0, and then downtown Half Moon Bay, which is zone 6 here. And what this really shows is that the Half Moon Bay tanks and the Denniston tanks are really the ideal locations for maximizing storage in your system. They set the hydraulic grade line for zone 1, as I mentioned, and each of these tanks, in total can serve 95% of the district's demands by gravity. So really the only areas they can't serve by gravity are these, the El Granada, upper El Granada zones and Miramontes. So in contrast, these are the remaining tanks that were looked at in the seismic evaluations, the El Granada, or sorry, not El Granada 1, but El Granada 1, Miramar tank, and Alves. Each of them are located below, they provide limited operational benefits because they're located below the hydraulic grade lines of the zones, of their particular zones. So, Miramar tank, the normal operating levels of Miramar tank are below the normal operating levels of Half Moon Bay and Denniston. So and El Granada tank 1, which, would serve zone 1, is well below those operating levels in Denniston and Half Moon Bay. So really, they don't drain to the lower zones. Their only purpose, with respect to El Granada tank 1, at least, is just to serve as a forebay to pump up to the upper El Granada zones. And because of this, there's really limited turnover in Miramar and Alves, and they create water quality issues. And please stop me at any point, if there are any questions. So I'll just focus on each of these 3 tanks and really the recommendations, some analysis that we did related to each of these 3 tanks, and then our ultimate recommendations. So Alves, we feel, is a valuable tank that provides, it does provide resiliency and storage to Zone 6 and the southern portion of the district's water system. Although under normal operations, it doesn't drain to serve Zone 6. There are scenarios where it could do so. One would be some scenario where there is a supply interruption to Zone 6. So the two pipelines, for example, that connect Zone 1 to Zone 6, if there's some failure there, Alves could drain back and serve downtown Half Moon Bay and Ocean Colony. Another way that Alves could be used to serve a larger area of Zone 6 is if the operator's intentionally isolated the southern portion of Zone 6 from Zone 1, and they could do this to extend the storage of the other tanks in the system, and access to storage in Alves. This may have been something, if it had gone further, the PSPS event, and I believe it was 2019. If it had extended further, this may have been a tool that the district could have used to extend their storage in the Half Moon Bay tanks. It's worth noting when we looked at the hydraulic model, Alves can feed Zone 6 to meet fire flow requirements in Ocean Colony, but the grade is not high enough in Alves such that it can meet fire flow requirements in downtown Half Moon Bay. We think that it would be valuable to keep storage at the Alves tank site, and that may be it could be a new tank or rehabilitation of the existing tank. We really want to evaluate that after it's clear what will ultimately be installed at the Carter Hill site. It could be that a smaller capacity tank is required there. The next tank we looked at was Miramar. And one thing that was identified in the seismic evaluations was that the retrofit costs exceeded the replacement costs. So really, any alternative to keep storage at Miramar, it looked like the best, or at least the best alternative would be to install a new tank. But as we discussed earlier, under normal conditions, there is no water turnover in this tank. It operates below the hydraulic grade line of Zone 1. One thing we identified in the hydraulic model was that if there is a fire flow condition in the neighborhood directly below Miramar, the tank does assist with fire flows. However, we did, in looking at alternatives, if Miramar was abandoned and taken out of service, you could still meet the fire flow requirements in the zone with pipeline upgrades. So upsizing, one option we identified was upsizing a small portion, about 600 feet of pipe, from 6 to 8 inches along Alto Avenue. And our modeling indicated that with this upgrade, we would be able to meet the fire flow requirements in this area. If this was the direction the district wanted to go, we'd want to confirm those fire flow results with a fire flow test. The next tank we looked at was El Granada Tank 1, which we recommend to be demolished. It's in need of significant rehabilitation, including construction of a new retaining wall behind the site if the tank were to be maintained. The tank has virtually no operational benefit. It's, as we saw in an earlier slide, its operating levels are significantly lower than the Zone 1 HGL, and it really only serves as a forebay to the EG1 pump station. So if EG1 was to be demolished, the tank were to be demolished, the pump station, EG1 pump station, would need to be resized to pump directly from zone 1 without the tank. It would actually be a smaller pump because the head wouldn't be dropped with the tank. But as we've seen in with site visits, the pump station building is in very poor condition, and it's probably in need of replacement anyway. So I'll briefly summarize the Carter Hill tank siting study that was completed by TJC and Associates in 2020, and this really served as a kind of a pre-design for the effort that HDR has started, their detailed design for the tank at the site. TJC and Associates looked at 3 alternatives. One was to rehabilitate the Half Moon Bay tanks, which have a capacity of 2.5 million gallons. Replace the tanks with a new welded steel tank, ranging from 2.5 to 5 million gallons, and then replacing the Half Moon Bay tanks with a new pre-stressed concrete tank of a similar capacity. What they identified was that at least a 3 million gallon tank could be constructed within the existing footprint of Half Moon Bay tank number 3. And also what they really showed was that, again, these costs, I know Mary will tell you that the cost that HDR is putting together are significantly higher than those presented here for a 3 million gallon tank option. But they at least show the relative costs between welded steel, concrete, and rehabbing the existing tanks. And as you can see, the life cycle costs for concrete are much lower than the 2 other welded steel options, the replacement and the rehabilitation. And that's because welded steel tanks require a lot of maintenance. They need to be recoated regularly, whereas concrete tanks do not. So that was really what the HDR design directly followed this study and was building on this study. So our recommended next steps, these were that were identified, about a year ago, were to, 1, initiate detailed design for the new pre-stressed concrete tank or tanks to replace Half Moon Bay number 1, 2, and 3, and that work began last fall. And the idea was to maximize the size of a new tank at the site, using the existing footprint of Half Moon Bay number 3 first. I know this may have changed with HDR's work, and then evaluate and site a future second tank in the footprint of Half Moon Bay 1 and 2. Alves, it was a wait and see what came out of the Half Moon Bay or Carter Hill work to confirm the appropriate sizing of either a new or rehabbed Alves tank. And then Miramar, we wanted to study this a little bit more and make sure that that the model was calibrated and that we understood the implications, of demolishing and abandoning Miramar tank. And then EG1, the recommendation was to demolish and abandon the tank, and then upgrade the pump station so that it pumped directly from zone 1 to EG2. That's the end of my slides, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
So Mary, I guess one thing that caught my attention, of course, was the concrete tank replacement for HMB 3. The initial cost or the base cost or the first cost would be $6.5 million. Is that the number?
That is not the number. So
What
let me
is
just,
that? What is that? That's
Yeah.
6.35 mil. I'm just wondering.
yeah, the
The
numbers
other
are
things would be
higher.
the
And
2, 3, 6. And then, of course, it'd be 30 million, 25, and 6 at the end of the concrete. I mean, the concrete obviously over the lifespan is a shoe in, but that first cost was really quite interesting. So that's what I didn't ever see the number like that before. I knew we were talking concrete tanks, but not at that level. So that's one question. Number two, given the recommendations, what would be the next step for you and staff to go forward and do and present to us going forward? I'm just, this was presented a year ago, right?
right.
Somehow I don't remember this.
Yeah.
I think I remember that number, but they're not, I don't know if we had the numbers then or not. That's what I'm wondering now. Okay, I'm sorry.
Mr.
John,
Chairman,
I'm sorry. Yeah.
this would be my first step starting today with staff and professionals regarding the new legislation that was signed today with the infrastructure. Maybe we should get in line for water replacement of tanks with the federal government infrastructure bill.
Mhm.
that passed
Good
today.
idea.
I think we have to show the underserved community that we're working with right there, and just it's all about the story. And we have an opportunity at Coastside County Water to tell an amazing story, coastal, underserved, and just see if we can get online with Representative Jackie Spear to see if there's an opportunity for funding to help pay for these large costs. And then if anyone wants to see the concrete line ones, I passed by it today. I believe it's on 37th Avenue in San Mateo, going down from Piazza Market there towards El Camino. I think Cal Water and James, you might be able to help me put in like 3 big ones. And boy, it's taken them a long time, but boy, they are super tankers. So that's my comment.
Good idea, John. Yeah, I mean, as far as the funding, it's not quite a done deal yet.
Right.
The bill, it's hopefully be very shortly, but not quite yet. You know, just keep our fingers crossed. But we should think about that anyway. I agree. Comments,
So,
Chris? I'm sorry, Mary.
well, I was going to show what what we've been doing with HDR as
Okay.
well.
All right, go for it.
I will share my screen. So a few months ago, we
Right.
hired HDR to work with us on a tank design. And we initially had them look at how big of a tank could we get on the Carter Hill site. So we're looking at, could we get bigger than 3 million gallons, replacing HMB3. That would take us over into the road. If you look on this map, there's actually a drop off on the top portion along the road, and then below the tank, it drops off. There's an opportunity to bury a little bit of the tank, but basically what we're looking at is on the HMB Tank 3 site right now, the max we could probably go to is about 3 million. So as we were looking at tanks, we started really asking the question, where do we really want to get to in terms of our total storage we would like to have up at Carter Hill? Carter Hill is the most valuable storage for us. And so it's really, and it's really to our benefit. It serves the whole district. We really feel that we should be maximizing our storage on Carter Hill eventually over time. We had HDR put this diagram together just to give an idea of where what tanks we could put in. We feel like we could put at least a 2 million gallon tank in the location of where we have tanks 1 and 2. And again, we'd have tank 3. These, and what we're thinking about is looking at putting in a tank after we finish the Nunez water treatment plant upgrade project, which will be 2 years from now. So we're really looking at in the like 24, 25 type of time frame to do a project. And then we would figure that we would ultimately want to do a second tank sometime in the next 10 plus years. So, but that depends on what we do with other tanks. So if money was no object, this is what we're looking at. And we had this drawn up, however, to emphasize we do have a problem right now with Verizon. Verizon has equipment on our tank 1. They have their equipment shed and generators next to tank 3. And then they do have a cell tower up on top of the hill. So if for doing all of this project, we would need to have Verizon relocate their equipment. And that can be quite expensive. Our contract technically gives us little room to ask them to relocate their equipment. It could be something where we might, we would need to give them something, either pay to relocate or give them a contract extension or something to relocate. Right. It would be easier for us to have them relocate their antenna on tank 1 and their some of their conduit. So that's a possibility. So we're trying to look at this in a time frame of, could we get them to move everything in the next 3 years? Or do we stage this and will we only be able to get them to move some of their equipment, which would say, which tank replacement do we do first? Do we do a replacement of 1 and 2 first, because it would be easier with dealing with our Verizon contract? Or if we can get through the Verizon issues, would we choose tank 3 first? So just to give you some stats, I want to show, just 1 second. Oh, sorry. Okay. Give you some ideas about what we're talking about with our tanks on Carter Hill. So tank 3, which is the larger tank, was built circa 1970. It has never been recoded. It is it needs to be rehabbed. It's 1.5 million gallons, and so what we're looking at with a replacement with a pre-stressed concrete tank, a DN tank, is 3 million, which would give us a net capacity increase of 1.5 million on that location. But that it's pricey. It's close to $10 million. This is all in with design and all the costs associated with construction, engineering, etc. But it's expensive. The other option we're looking at too is eventually replacing tanks 1 and 2. Tank 1 was built in 1950. It was recoded in 2012 at around a cost of about $300,000. Tank 2 was built in 1955, has not been recoded, and so it needs significant work in being rehabilitated if we wanted to keep it. And it's so, but between those 2 tanks, so tank 1 is 400,000 gallons and tank 2 is 600,000 gallons. We think we can replace that tank with a 2 million gallon tank, removing both tanks and replacing with one, where we could get an incremental 1 million gallons. So altogether with this vision, we would be increasing storage 2.5 million gallons. So doubling the storage at Carter Hill. This could give us some options in terms of what we do, for example, at Miramar. Miramar is a 1 million gallon tank. So that tank could potentially be taken out, and we've increased the storage at Carter Hill. And so this, it gives us options, but it is it's not cheap to do this. Right now we have HDR a bit on hold as we understand where we're at with Verizon. They were working on a design for tank 3, and it is a question of if we are going to have issues with Verizon, it may be better for us to decide to replace 1 and 2 first. So I'll stop here, and also I will ask James if you have anything to add to what I had to say about what we've been doing with HDR.
Can you bring up the tank image? I just wanted to kind of point out a couple of things.
Okay.
About why we need to move those buildings. But I think you did a really good overview. So if you look at the tank 3 replacement, the larger one, you can see that they've X'd out the generator that the tank could be sitting on, but they also need to move the equipment room. DN needs 10 feet of travel space for their post-tensioning machine to go around. So those are going to have to be relocated. I just wanted to point that out, why it looks close, but we still need to move those. There's not enough room to get the cabling machine around the tank. And to be honest, tank 1 and 2 is a little bit easier. There's not as much excavation. It's a little easier effort. And I've gone up against Sprint at other districts. Cell companies can be really difficult and create serious delays, but we have not started the discussion with Verizon yet. Thank you, Mary.
Mary, you go back to in your cost analysis, if you did tank 1 and 2 first, and then 3 and 2930, whenever that was, it costs 7.8. If you do 3 first, and then the other 2, it costs 9.8, 2 million more. Why is that? Why does it cost more, 2 million more to do 3 first than instead of 1 and 2? I'm just, that's a factor. I'm just trying to understand.
Mary, can I?
Yes.
That's due to the site is going to require, the tank 3 site is going to require some sheet piling, some excavation, much more significant excavation in temporary roads to access the site. So there's a lot more digging and excavation involved, as well as the size difference.
But I got that the total cost for doing 1, 2, and then 3 later was 7 million, and doing 3 first and then 1, 2 later, I don't know, was 9 million. You're still doing all 3 of them. I just don't understand why is it more expensive to dig.
Why is it more expensive to do tank 3?
To do 3 first. There were 2 options there.
Right. I think it.
I know. I would put back
That's the estimated cost.
I'm just, it's just anomaly. It's probably explainable. I just don't understand. Put back the cost line, the last one.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm reading it wrong. Yes.
Okay, sure.
One with the two options, the end one. Last slide. Yeah. Carter 3 replacement, Carter Hill 1 and 2 replacement. But then it says at the bottom, you would do a second tank in 2930 and a second tank in 2930. Aren't those what are those? I'm sorry, that's confusing.
No, I'm sorry if that's confusing. What the question is, which option would we do first? 1 and 2 first or tank 3 first. So what we're looking at, I'm sorry, it'd be really 23, 24 targeting doing one of the options.
Okay, and the 7.9 is for doing first
Yeah.
option in both. And 9 is doing the first selected option is 9. The second tank's not included in the total.
Correct. The
Okay,
second
fine, I'm
tank's
sorry.
not included.
Got it. Thank you. I'm sorry, other comments?
Just a quick question with staff, please. Refresher, what's our acreage ownership in that area there at Carty Hill?
Oh,
Have an idea?
There's several parcels there. Are you talking just the tank parcel?
No, total of what CCWD has acquired over the years.
I'd be taking a guess at 12 acres,
Okay,
but I'd have to check the GIS.
so yeah, and then the top of that on the northern end would border then the Andrini property up there, correct? Yeah.
Ken, any comments, questions? Your speaker's off.
I'm turning it on. I'd like to go back to Jonathan Sutter's pricing for the concrete tanks. I like it a lot better. Maybe he could step in and build that tank for us. I think the plan is fantastic about two different approaches, and accumulating 5 million gallons at Carter Hill. I think it's the smartest thing we can do. Can we afford it? Can our customers afford it? I'm sure we can make it work. It's going to have consequences. I think John has a great idea looking for funding, but in the experiences that I've seen, that takes a pretty serious effort. And so we're going to have to make sure we've got enough staff capacity, I think, to pursue that. But I think that, we've got a great political contact in John. And so I think there's some great ways to proceed that way, and Chris as well. I guess what interests me the most is keeping the Alves tank. Has anybody given any kind of cost estimation, or did I miss it, about what's the least amount of work we could do on it and keep it as a backup for fire flows in the eventuality that there was some kind of a disaster and we closed off that southern part of the district and utilized that tank. But I don't know if we've seen those numbers or not. I guess if it's $3 million or $4 million or something, then it really is something we have to look carefully at. Getting rid of Miramar tank, in my opinion, might be offset by the value of the Miramar real estate. We might find that there's one parcel or more, and those are pretty expensive pieces of real estate in our area. And I think that rather than looking at enlarging pipe sizes, it does seem to be kind of a dead end part of our water system. So I think I'm very open to that kind of an idea, getting rid of that. I think El Granada Highlands has always been a problem for us, and we've always kind of thought we're moving the water up that hill, but the fire flows there, I think, they're adequate, but I don't think they're anything to write home about. So if this getting rid of one tank and adding a pump station that's more powerful, that can pump more directly up into that area, I think that is certainly worth looking at. What I like about the thinking in the reports is that you guys are thinking way down the road, 10 years down the road in these projects. And so I think that gives me a great deal of comfort knowing that we can identify these programs to the customer who are on board and have plenty of time for input. I appreciate seeing, I think it's really nice to look at the relative elevations of those tanks, very helpful. And so I think we have some great information to share with our customers and make sure that they're on board. I know we must have seen some of this stuff, but I really appreciate the presentation tonight.
Right.
either I wasn't there or my mind wasn't there or whatever, but I don't recall all of this. So I just want to tell you thanks. Thanks for coming in from the East Coast, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. Glad to be here.
Chris, any comments?
Yeah, I certainly wanted to laminate on just how great that presentation was. I could say after 20 years on the water board, now I really understand how the pressure zones work. And I certainly understand the value of having a 16-inch pipeline that we fought so hard for. That really gives us the flexibility to store so much water in a centralized location. So really, really nice to see the dividends that is paying. Yeah, Ken, you're right, absolutely, about the value in the Miramar tank site. As I'm sure you will know, living in the neighborhood, that's a very, very valuable site. And if it's just storing, dead water, good riddance, and we can replace it with a long-lasting concrete pipe. Tanks. Yeah, it's going to come at a great cost, but I think, this will. I like the out years. This is something. This could get us through the end of this century. And how many infrastructure projects can we really say that about that will truly see us to the end of this century? So while up front, yes, it's going to have a cost. I think, but as much as you guys know, I'm not a big fan of bond financing. This is something that we may need to consider bond financing for something with such a long lifetime. So I'm really excited. Even though I am on facilities, I still did learn something new tonight. And now I think we're really all on the same page as to what the future holds for CCWD. And I think there's some really exciting options out there. So thank you.
Okay, any other comments, questions? Okay, Mary, so we expect that at some point you'll come back with additional information about progress on perhaps Verizon discussions, et cetera, and which approach we think would be most likely, and some proposal going forward for the next step in terms of beginning further work on doing this. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Our key to do right now is to talk to Verizon and understand what our leeway is for them moving their equipment.
Okay. So we expect something on that going forward.
Right.
Any other questions? If not, Ken. You're off again. There you go.
Yeah, I'm on. I just don't want you to hear me sneezing. The other question I had is, I'm assuming that because of the way these tanks are built and the way they have to be cabled or stressed, the cable has to be stressed. So they have to be round. Is that true? These tanks have to be round. Is that correct? They can't be.
Yeah, that's my understanding.
Yeah, yes, Ken, this style, which is a D110, AWW D110, it has to be round.
Okay.
They pull like 150,000 pounds of tension in the cable. We looked at the D115 tanks that are only pulled to 150 pounds. You can do all kinds of funny shapes, but I wasn't terribly impressed with their construction or seismic kind of performance, so to speak. It just, and I think John saw were you in on that talk?
No, I wasn't.
We saw a demo of the D115 tanks. There's not so many in California because California's got a lot of earthquakes. Once I saw how they make them, I was convinced immediately that if we're going to do concrete, the D110 is the way to go.
Great.
Okay. Thank you. Well, the next item on the agenda is Kathleen is going to discuss the oops, sorry, I think I'm the Water Shortage Advisory and Drought Outreach Update Request for voluntary 50% reduction in water consumption. Kathleen, you want to take that away?
So this subject, it was a priority for President Reynolds. So that's why it was placed under general business so that the board could discuss it. So in my staff report, I included a brief background with a table of milestones, and currently our status is we're at a water shortage advisory, which is stage 1 of our water shortage contingency plan, with a voluntary request for a 15% reduction in total water use with an emphasis on reducing outdoor water uses. And this aligns with what SFPUC and the governor have requested. So our focus is on getting consumption or sales down by 15% from 2020 by requesting customers to reduce their outdoor water usage during the summer and fall months. I attached to the staff report a postcard that was sent out in July to all our customers. And I also attached to the staff report a list of outreach completed in July, messaging the 15% reduction request, and also trying to motivate our customers to sign up for WaterSmart to monitor their water usage so that they get a better understanding of how they're using water and how much water they're using. So there's obviously more outreach planned for August and September, but staff's efforts are still focused on reaching out to residential customers, especially those customers in the 3rd tier of water use. And we use WaterSmart reporting to help us generate the contact lists, and we can contact them by email if we have the email. And those we don't have emails for, we mail a letter to them. So July 2021 consumption data showed a slight decrease when compared to July of 2020, which is good. But the district still needs to continue with outreach to try to get those additional reductions that we're looking for. And again, our plan is to keep reaching out to the residential high use customers. Staff is also working with Raftellus financial consultants to develop a rate study, and staff plans to meet with the finance committee in August to report on the progress that we have made so far. So if you have any questions about my staff report or anything you wanted, any additional questions for me?
Yeah. Go ahead, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry.
No, John, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. If I may, and I'm sure we all feel the same way, the staff report was excellent in my opinion. So I compliment the work you put into it and the staff support. And I picked up some extra cards that were mailed out, and I've actually stapled them to wherever we had a water connection, whether it was near the front door of our property or front door of one of our tenants. And that way they're reminded, even if they didn't get it in the mail. And my wife even tried to look in the bins at the post office to see how many were discarded, and it didn't look too bad there. So we were happy to hear that. I think it was an excellent report, and it's something we can share with our friends and neighbors on your comments there. So I think that's an excellent report, and at least we reduced a little bit, but a long way to go, and keep at it. I think that's what I made a note here on the staff report.
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Okay, other comments? Ken, Chris? No, I agree with John. It was really excellent work so far to get the word up. A good outreach program, and we're going to have to continue probably even more going forward based on the future predictions on what's going to be going on. Next item on the agenda is Kathleen. 2 in a row now. She's on a roll. So it's to authorize the general manager to enter into a subscription service agreement for Acela SAF Civic application for building and to enter into a professional service agreement with Silver Lining Solutions for implementation of the Acela Civic application for building. Sounds like a movie, Silver Lining System.
Yes, it's a lot. Okay, well, I'm gonna start out with, I apologize. I'm gonna start out with a change to the recommendations. So you have your red marker ready. So this is in regards to attachment B, which is the service, Acela service agreement. Based on our attorney's direction, we are going to add some wording to that first recommendation. And it's going to be number 1, enter a 3-year license, and then quantity 5, agreement with Acela for the Civic platform building application for a total of $42,558.75. And then this is where we add, and successful negotiations of the services agreement in a final form acceptable to the general manager. So what that means is the service agreement isn't final. There may be, we will, based on our attorney's recommendations, we may ask for a few changes. And so we'll submit those, and, and we won't sign it until we're comfortable with the services agreement. So that's basically the change that we're trying to point out there. So, okay. So I apologize for that, but I wanted to get that straight from the beginning. So regarding Acela, since about 2019, district staff has been actively working on trying to find a solution that would make the processing of planning permits and building permits and our comments within our jurisdiction more efficient for staff, more transparent for the applicants, and for our partners. And our partners include the City of Half Moon Bay, the County of San Mateo, and Coastside Fire Protection District. Those are the 3 agencies we work most closely with when we're doing plan reviews for water and fire service within our service area. And the pandemic kind of slowed us down there for a bit, but it also pointed out to us the need that we have for a web portal that will help us transfer large files of drawings and documents instead of having to take everything as paper. That's the trend, to be more efficient and for the applicants to apply for the building permits and approvals. So after viewing multiple products, district staff is recommending Acela's Civic application platform for building. Acela specializes in software solutions for government agencies, and we found their demonstration and their product the most comprehensive that we viewed. So that's what we decided on. And then just for your information, the County of San Mateo also uses Acela and their portal. So that was another positive. It would mean a lot of the developers in our area are probably, would be familiar with it, with the look of it and how to use it. And then in addition to that, which goes to recommendation number 2, staff is recommending using the services of Silver Lining Solutions to assist the district with implementation of Acela. Their proposal is attachment D in the staff report. So staff has met multiple times with both Acela and with Silver Lining Solutions to make sure that their proposal fits our needs and that we're comfortable with it, that they understand our expectations and our limitations as far as staff resourcing, and so that we could collaborate and come up with a good proposal that will work for Coastside County Water District. And so if you have any questions regarding Acela or Silver Lining Solutions.
I think in these,
Director Muller.
yeah, I think in these dry conditions, we need a little humor in this. And I want you to know I've kind of gone through the packet, and it's a bit of humor here when we're talking about a reduction of paperwork and work. Acela and the other sent us 30 pages of paperwork, guys. But who's counting? Both sides printed. So staff, heck of a job for reviewing all of that. And I think your recommendation with legal counsel for the agenda item, as was worded, is for sure to be put in that first authorization there.
Okay, great.
But I thought you'd get a kick out of the 30 pages, 19 for Acela and 11 for the other one, to be specific.
Well, to be honest, I was thinking that when Mary reviewed it, she would probably chop it off a little bit, but she kept it all, so.
I did too, so I counted them.
All right.
I have technical questions, Mary. Can't you have anything? I'm sorry. Any? No? Two questions. Are these two separate agreements? One with each of the two organizations? There'll be two, an Acela agreement and a Silver Lining Systems agreement. Is that correct? Is either one of them, does Acela general manage Silver Linings? The Silver Linings manage Acela, or we manage them both separately? I'm confused. It seems like one is part of the other. It seems like this is somehow a joint kind of proposal from them. I'm just thinking out loud.
Okay, yeah, no.
So I'm just trying to get simple here. Is this something that's a joint agreement that one of them sort of takes the burden of managing with us being the buyer?
There are two separate agreements. So Acela recommended that we use one of their approved vendors for implementation, because if we used Acela staff to do the implementation, it'd be much more expensive. So so using Silver Linings, who's one of their approved vendors for implementation, we would save money, and we could scale it more to our needs as a special district.
Okay.
So we went with their recommendation. We actually interviewed a couple of their approved vendors. We went with Silver Lining Solutions.
Okay.
And so it is two separate agreements, but we do work closely with both, and and Silver Lining Solutions works closely with Acela, since they are one of their approved vendors.
But we manage both of them basically, right? And
Yes.
if we approve this, authorize you, so we approve this, then we approve that you spend so much for each of them. And then you make the change in the wording
In the
in
motion.
item one. Basically. That's what it is. This is like a workflow process to deal with permits and partners and other users. Do they get to be able to access that from their place to see where things are? Or is it only for us to generate it to them? I'm just trying to understand if they have online access to this workflow process, like they normally do in workflow process.
Yeah, so via the portal, it's a two-way communication. We can upload documents for them to complete or share,
Okay.
or they can download their application materials for us to use and share.
Okay.
And that's where the transparency comes in. They can look up the status of their approval process.
Okay.
Yeah, and then there's potential for more sharing, but that
Okay.
is kind of down the road, but yeah.
And this is all adequately secure and taken care of by the software, manages all the security for us, etc.
So yeah, it's software as a service. It's all in the cloud.
Okay.
And I included, so if that's why I included attachment C, because I know security is very important now.
Okay.
And so you could see, more about their software security.
Other questions, comments? Ken?
Yeah, Kathleen, are you going to be the one that drives both of these programs? Or who?
Yes, I guess I will be driving the implementation. That's definitely, yes. And Gina and I, pretty much 50-50 really, will be driving the implementation and be responsible for setting everything up so that it fits our workflow. So it's really, I think it's a 50-50 collaboration between Gina and I.
And because in reading through it, it looks like there's a lot of complexity. I'm sure that once it's up and running, and everyone understands how to operate it, but it looks like a lot of time commitment on your part and on Gina's part. And so that was my big concern is, a lot of times we look at software applications or software programs and we look at, the consultants that are going to help manage the software and it takes a tremendous amount of time and energy. And especially in the beginning of these programs, it's quite cumbersome. So I just wondered and will you guys continue to be the operators or will there be staffing additions to manage this or any sort of feeling about those kinds of things?
Gina and I will be the power users of it. There's no plans to add additional staffing for this. More people will be trained on how to use it within within the organization, but I think the reality is I think it'll mainly be Gina and I using it the most and accessing it the most.
Okay.
And you're excited
Other
about
questions, comments?
and you're excited about that, is that right?
I'm stressed about it, which is probably why it's taken us so long. I was trying to be very careful not to overcommit on the implementation because it is going to be very time consuming. And Silver Lining Solutions was very open and honest about that, of what their expectations were of our time. So that's why we made the decision not to, we have the opportunity to connect to our utility billing system, Tyler, and to our Esri, to our GIS system. And we decided to make that a different phase because we knew we couldn't do everything at once. So that's going to be in a phase 2. So we try to keep it very simple for the implementation to ensure its success. I did interview agencies that didn't have positive outcomes, and it mainly came to they were pretty aggressive in what they wanted to implement, and they tried to do too much at once, and there were communication breakdowns. So I'm hoping to learn from their failures so that we do it. We have a better outcome and a more successful implementation.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I wish you every success.
Thank you.
Yeah, I do too. Do they provide ongoing support? I think there was some, do they keep in touch over the years, with maintenance on the software, et cetera, that's all included in the package?
No, after the implementation, if we needed their services, we could use them. They do support that for a lot of different agencies, both with business processes and making changes to Acela, customizing it. But it would cost more. It's not included in this.
Right, okay, that would be charged. They would charge for doing that. So.
Yeah.
Okay, other comments, questions, or do you need a motion for this?
Yeah, so I
Right.
we need to, a motion for the.
Okay, you're gonna have a
recommendation.
motion for this proposal. John,
Yes, I would move at this time on the recommendation to authorize the general manager with the word changes in line 1 in the entering of the 3-year agrees according to the comments that were just made by staff. And then that would include the motion as is on item 2 of the recommendation. I believe, is that
Right.
correct, staff?
Second,
have a second?
second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. You want to call the roll, please?
Director Muller,
Yes.
Director Coverdale,
Yes.
Director Michelson,
Yes.
Vice President Feldman.
Yes. Okay. Next item on the agenda is Mary going to talk about the purchase of a green climber slope mower.
I'm going to give this to, I will give this to James. So,
Okay, James, hand it off to James.
Thank you.
Sounds like some kind of monster or some sort of green climber slope mower.
Yeah, so 4 months
Thing
ago,
crawling up the- Go ahead, I'm
sorry,
sorry.
back in March,
Another monster.
a lease to own. Due to feedback from the board, we originally wanted to just purchase the equipment outright, and there was a recommendation to do a lease for 4 months and try the equipment out, see how it works. It's worked fantastic. No one's gotten hurt, and we've mowed numerous fire breaks and areas around our tanks, particularly in the PUC watershed with the guidance of the biologists there. We have cleared portions of the Crystal Springs pipeline that I don't think have been really exposed since it was installed. So the equipment's been working great. We're at the end of the 4-month rental period at $15,000 a month. The arrangement was that if we exercise the purchase option, 75% of the $60,000 of rental costs would be applied towards the purchase. So we are requesting that we purchase this equipment from Jesse Mack Company for a total amount of $105,215.63. And just want to remind the board that this pricing came through HGAC BUY, which is a joint powers authority that serves government agencies with competitive bidding processes. And they won the contract on their equipment. So it has been competitively bid. We're making a lot of progress with fire breaks and clearing our easements, and staff's really excited about it. And we're doing stuff that hasn't really ever been done at the district. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer.
Any questions, comments? My question is, will it still work if it's not green and it's on brown dirt? I mean, brown dead leaves and stuff, because it's not a lot of green going to be around here for a while. Or is the name of the guy who invented it green?
It'll pretty much mulch anything up to 8 inches in diameter.
Okay, it doesn't have to be green.
When we've gone into overgrown areas, we can lop the branches and mulch it in place. So there's no haul off of material.
I just think the name is
Green, brown.
green climber. There's not going to be a lot of green around here.
It'll mulch whatever in front of it.
It mows whatever you put it on. Okay. We need a motion to purchase this fellow. Anybody want to make a motion?
So moved.
I hear Ken.
Move
Anybody
we
want to second that?
authorize, I move we authorize the expenditure of $105,000 in that neighborhood to purchase the robo mower.
Robo mower. John?
I'll second it with a comment. Your concern, Mr. Vice Chair, this evening. Maybe we could have an employee contest to name the machine.
Name the machine. I guess.
Just a
That's
second.
usually my job to name the machines.
Well, if you're more comfortable with
No, it's fine.
the
I'll
green,
let them name it. It's fine.
oh, it's a little employee opportunity to have a little draw.
The Monster Climber LV 680. I like that. We have a motion and a second, so we have a vote. Denise?
Director Muller,
Yes.
Director Coverdale,
Yes.
Director Michelson,
Yes.
Vice President Feldman.
Yes. Okay. Mary, you're going to talk about a resolution amending the Coastside County Water District Personnel Manual regarding certification pay program.
Yes, thank you. So our distribution and treatment staff are required to obtain grade D2 and T2 certifications from the state of California. And management would like to recognize our staff members who have gone above and beyond to obtain higher certifications at the district. These higher certifications are difficult to obtain and often require years of study and experience. And to hold these higher certifications means that our employees have achieved a much higher level of understanding of distribution and treatment processes. And time again, our employees with higher certifications have demonstrated that they can provide important insights into complex problems. So, being a small district, we have a complex infrastructure, and we want to be able to recruit and retain our employees who have reached higher level certifications. So we are therefore requesting the board to approve increasing certification pay for treatment operators T3 to T5 and distribution operators D3 to D5. Also requesting an increase to the Spanish fluency pay from $50 to $100. So any questions?
Mr. Chair, I have a comment.
Yes.
I think it's really wonderful to create these milestones and to reward the staff members that, put the extra effort in to obtain these certifications and training that really enriches their capability in performing the functions that we need at the water district. So I think it's great that you're bringing this forward. I'm really excited to see it.
John?
I agree with Director Coverdale's just recent comment there. I just quick question, will this have any impact on the upcoming labor contract negotiations? I think that's coming up very soon. Is that correct, Manager?
Yes, actually, the upcoming labor agreement expires at the end of June of 2022. So we will be working with our staff in the next few months to come up with a new agreement. But this is being done before the agreement in recognition of our staff doing really some amazing work. And we want to be able to retain our staff.
Thank you for clarifying that for me.
Yeah, I just want to second that. This is a really great means by which we can retain the best possible, highly trained staff. So I'm really in favor of this. Employee retention in a small district, bigger districts, if they lose somebody, they always have other employees to backfill. We're a very small, tight-knit group, and maintaining the best, possibly trained employees is really key. So this is a great step towards that. So thank you.
No, yeah, I concur with all the comments. I think this is a case of staff being innovative and thinking outside the box in a way that allows us to manage our employee retention going forward, and a very solid approach to keeping them at the levels that we would like them to maintain. going forward and aspiring to the next level of experience and expertise. We need a motion on this one, right, Mary? Okay, can I have a motion? Anybody want to move?
I will.
Okay, John.
At this time, I would move the recommendation to adopt the attached resolution number 2021-06, amending the Coastside County Water District Personnel Manual to be effective September 1st, 2021. So move.
Thank you, John. Do you have a second? Hearing none, I'll second that.
Second?
Okay. I'm sorry, Ken, did you second it?
Yes.
Okay, Ken seconded it, that's fine. Have a vote, please. Denise?
Director Muller,
Yes.
Director Coverdale,
Yes.
Director Michelson,
Yes.
Vice President Feldman.
Yes. Okay. Next on the agenda is from James and Mary, which is the Nunez Water Treatment Plant Improvement Project Update.
Yes.
So I'll turn it over to Mary and Jim.
Yes. So we're about to start one of the largest projects that the district has ever done, or at least in recent years, the Nunez Water Treatment Plant Improvement Project. This $9 million project will involve extensive rehabilitation upgrades to over 25% of the Nunez facility. So, and the construction will span over 2 years. So we are going to have a little section every month on where we're going with this project, since it's so important for us. We will be working with Fryer and Loretta, our construction service manager, to provide updates. So James, can you just give us a little brief update of where we're at this month?
Sure. Ranger's been very active coming up to the site with their subs and looking at various aspects of the project. Fryer and Loretta and HDR have been helping us with the RFI process. That's all been going smoothly. I think we're at RFI number 15 already, mostly related to equipment to be purchased or not. The treatment staff and Ranger have been really helpful in identifying things that we may not need for the project, certain parts. So we're not willy-nilly taking things out of the project, but there is value engineering actively happening as we speak. And we've been really impressed with Ranger's attention to detail, the amount of time that they're spending and really thinking about the project, how they're going to approach it, and asking very good questions, which shows their expertise in construction. So we're very impressed, and we'll give you more updates, but that's really all I have to say right now. They'll be mobilizing in mid-August. Staff has already purchased time-lapse cameras to mount on poles for the big items like the said basin going in. And Mary and I have talked about maybe getting a photographer out there for when they're lifting large pieces of equipment into place. And we're looking forward to sharing the progress of this very important project.
I guess a brief comment. I think, James, I'd like to thank you for that update. And it wasn't 30 pages, it was only 8.
I had to say, there's only 8 pages and it's 8.4 million. It's mostly their schedule.
Yeah, and I'm sorry to
It's the
mention
most detailed schedule I've ever seen any contractor actually lay out in work we've done in the past, unless I missed something. This is quite interesting. And I was happy to see that.
We're gonna have to win another election to see this.
Yeah, this is their preliminary schedule. It could change, but it shows that they definitely have a tight plan to achieve their goals.
Kathleen still wins the award for the biggest agenda item.
Any comments, Ken?
Well,
Chris?
Bob, looks like the two of us are gonna have to win another election to see this thing through.
See how to what?
Looks like we're gonna have to win another election to see this thing through. It's quite the timeline.
it's going to take a few years, right? Yeah, to finish this. It'll be interesting. I did run into some ranger folks here doing some work for the Half Moon Bay, and in terms of replacement and sewer coast sewer authority mid-coast, replacing a force main at the end of Fairway Place and Fairway Drive in Ocean Colony. And they were on it for some months, but I will say that the people that I ran into and talked with on that job, because I like to get to know some of the people and understand their approach, were very, very professional. I have to give them that. They were ready to stop, talk, tell you what they were doing, what it would take to do this, where they were having some difficulty. And I was very, at the end of the day, it was, I think, a positive interaction, and they're almost done. They have to put a fence up because they can't get the material to build a little fence, but it's just about done. So they were really up front, and I appreciated that. So my experience has been very positive with them in the little interaction that I've had. Second question, although this is totally off the wall, as they build this out, they're going to be working around the plant. And it came to my attention that JPIA recommends that water agencies get drones, or at least have one drone to take photos of tanks when people want to see how tanks are looking at the top without having to climb up the stairs. Are we able to get a drone at some point to put on the job to look at the work as they go through from a top level view over time, to watch as it is completed from a different perspective than we've seen? That's just an idea. So just something to think about, and maybe use it as an alternate to check tanks going forward to prevent ops from having to climb up and take a look at like the top of the valves and the top of the other tanks. That would be a good reason to couple this with the watching of the progress of the construction process over time, which people do, to show what it means to the community to watch this thing come together. So that's just an idea. Okay, thank you for the update. No other questions. Mary, General Manager's report.
I'll be quick here. We reached an exciting milestone this month. We actually were able to submit our CCWD document to the clearinghouse at the state. So we're very excited. This is for the water line replacement under Pellucidas Creek at Strawflower Village. This effort has taken us, right now we're about a year and a half into the CCWD process. So we're in the 30-day noticing period. We we'll be able to collect comments, and our game plan is to have a public hearing on November 9th. So anyway, we're moving forward on the project.
Any comments, questions from the board? Okay, hearing none.
Mr. Chair, just quickly here.
I'm sorry, John.
With Mary, does this entail the property owners of the Strawflower Shopping Center also?
Yes, we'll need to work through an easement with the shopping center, which in various communications, we don't think that should be an issue. We also have an easement that we need to get with the city of Half Moon Bay, which we're in conversations with.
With the owners, Mary, I can help you. There are friends of ours that are the new owners of the shopping center, but they don't own CVS. That's a separate parcel.
Yeah, and we're not.
Yeah.
Touching that area. Yeah.
They own everything but the CVS property, which is a great story to share sometime with everyone. But they're a good family doing a lot of work to improve that shopping center. So thank you for getting the CCWD project process done.
Okay.
Well, that's good news. Okay, and then next on the agenda is Jan giving us a monthly update.
Good evening again. Monthly highlights. The valve truck was picked up from the Selzy shop in Fresno. There's pictures on the following pages of the agenda. If you want to look at those real quick, there's a nice shot of the truck. The chassis was bought through James Ford in Half Moon Bay. I've had great experiences with the Selzy shop. I don't know if anyone's ever done a custom bed, but they do really the best beds out there. They did a great job. Staff went out there and inspected on a couple of times before they even painted. And we also did a final inspection with a fine tooth comb before it was picked up. So you'll see on the back of the truck, there's a vacuum tank for waste. So we'll be able to wash down and vacuum out the valve cans. There's an articulating arm there. You see, if you go to the last page, you'll see Jack Whelan out there with it deployed. This arm will articulate so you can get on several valves without moving the truck. And this valve exerciser will do automatically 25-pound increments or whatever you set it at, going forward and backward. And when it hits the torque, it will go in the other direction. And when we had this truck in Marina, we found that we had numerous valves that we thought we had to replace that we could rehabilitate with this machine by gently traveling the gate up and down. I don't think we've done more than 10 valves because we're still getting used to it and also waiting for the manufacturer to come out and give us training. But we're really excited, and the staff is really appreciative of the board's support of getting a real valve program going, and it will help us achieve our preventive maintenance goals.
Thank you, James. I saw that truck going down the road the other day, and I'm like, what is this thing? So good job on the staff report here. Now we all know it's the valve truck.
Right. And then when we have an in-person board meeting, we'll be happy to give you a tour out in the yard to show you what it looks like and what it can do. And then moving on.
I gather you don't want to arm wrestle with this truck.
No. Yeah, you
Mary gave me a tour of the truck. She gave me a 1-hour tour of the truck.
Oh,
Right, it took about an hour, Mary, to show me all the stuff on it. No, it was quite a truck. I was very impressed with it. They didn't demonstrate the arm though, so I'll have to watch that some other time. Quite a piece of apparatus. Looked like it was well built and extremely solid. So I'm sure it'll be a help to our staff in dealing with the many valves we have in this community. All right, next on your agenda.
Yeah, we drained, cleaned, and inspected the filters at Nunes. The staff is happy to know that's the last time they're going to have to look at those filters before the rehab. So that was kind of a milestone for them. Fire break maintenance at district facilities, I mentioned that. Replaced a hydrant at El Granada Boulevard. We did forklift training for all field staff. Denniston off-season maintenance is continuing. Of course, we're in Crystal Springs due to the low precipitation. And we've done an overview on Nunes and the EKI project for Pilarcitos and the Half Moon Bay tanks, thanks to Mary's mentioning of those. And then lastly, CityWorks integration with the Tyler customer service database has been tested, and the field staff is continuing to use this important program and picking up nicely. So we're just testing the integration before we go live with the customer service database, and staff is really taking off with this program and enjoying it very much. It's helping us keep track of what we're doing and how we're expending equipment, labor, and materials. If you have any questions, I'm here for you.
Good report, Jim. Any comments, questions? Okay, last item on the agenda, director agenda items, requests for future board meetings. Any requests, comments? Okay, hearing none, I'll adjourn the meeting and wish you all a good weekend and week, and stay safe. All righty. Thank you much, Mary.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Thank you.
Take care, Chris.
Thanks.
Thank you. Your hand.
if anybody's
you.
traveling Sunday through the airport, try not to recognize me.
Recognize you.
No, it's a secret.